Jazzcast Pros.
In my last episode, I challenged you to think about what you want to bring in more of this fall or less of this fall. And so I challenged myself to that as well. And so today I'm going to be sharing the 5 things that I am bringing back, and a couple are new and some are I'm bringing back from last season that I'm bringing back into my fall routine. Welcome to High Vibe Table Talks, the podcast to help you, the current or aspiring solopreneur, navigate the messy middle so you can make both an income and an impact. Hi, I'm Rashawn, and I love creating safe spaces for women to be courageous in their dreams. After spending a decade working in sales for a startup and talking with hundreds of other women entrepreneurs, I know it can be lonely, but you can do this. So pull up a seat. This is High Vibe Table Talks. 5 things that I'm bringing back into my fall routine, either back because they were there previously or new ones that I'm adding, but 5 things that I am leaning into this fall season. This first one is something that I really fell in love with last fall, and it is my living for Sundays and really making sure Sundays are a very sacred day of my week. One of my favorite things to do last fall, actually, I am a Miami Dolphins fan, and the Dolphins were the team that were on the Hard Knocks last year. And so I would get up in the morning and I would write up my grocery list, and I would sometimes Instacart, sometimes go to the grocery store, but then I would get my groceries and I would turn on Hard Knocks for the Dolphins, and I would make bread because I love making a loaf of focaccia or French bread or some sort of loaf for the week. And then I would start a Sunday dinner. And then by the time that the football game started, I had fresh bread and I was eating something delicious and nutritious. And so now that I'm added another coaching job onto my schedule, Sundays are even more crucial because weeknights are just that much busier. And so this past Sunday, I made a big pot of soup for Rowan. I made chicken noodle soup for her. I made a lentil soup for myself. I made a couple loaves of bread and had breakfast ready for the week. And so, mornings are easier with breakfast being ready, and lunches and dinners are something that are easy to grab, maybe add one more element to, or I've been throwing the soup into I'm blanking on the name of it. I'm throwing it into a thermos so it's ready either for lunch for me that day or having it in the gym when I'm at practice. And so really making sure that I am fueled throughout the week, because being a vegetarian, protein is something that I have to be conscious of. And if I'm just snacking on stuff quickly, in between things, then I'm not getting a lot of that. And so that is something that is definitely a priority for me. Sundays is resetting the house so that I make sure that come Monday morning, I'm not feeling cluttered and overwhelmed by everything going on around me, because life is very busy, that I have a space that feels good to be in and live in and settle down in. And so number 1 is just really living for Sundays and making sure that they are filled with as much intention as possible to make the rest of the week easy and spacious and as little stress as potentially possible. Everything's going to come up. There's going to be days that we just stop on the drive-thru on the way home. There's going to be times that, dinner is a popsicle and some cucumbers. That's just, it is what it is, but trying to minimize that as much as possible is the goal. So that's number 1. Number 2 is prioritizing sleep. And this is a new trick that I am adding, and is actually, because in my own brain at night, I crave that alone time and trashy TV time, and I end up staying up way too late, and then it makes the morning miserable, and then I'm exhausted all day, and then I, catch my second wind at 10 o'clock and stay up until 11:30, and it's just I know that I end up in a bad routine, and it just isn't good for myself. It's not good for anybody around me. It's not good for my business. It's not good for me as a mom, me as a coach, me as a wife, me as a friend, none of those things. And especially getting home from sports later, tonight our game doesn't start until 6 and varsity starts at 7:30. So I probably won't get home until after 10 o'clock tonight. And then we have to be in the gym tomorrow at 7:30. So that is my own doing, but it does take me a little while to wind down from the games. And so one thing that I'm adding to aid myself and turning my brain off is a gummy. And so not every night, but like a couple nights a week, if by like, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock, I take between a quarter and a half of a gummy. And then by like 10 o'clock, 10:30, I like can't keep my eyes open. And so it's just kind of aiding, quieting my brain down, helping me like get into bed, fall asleep, and then stay asleep. And so that is something new that I have added that is just kind of knowing where my brain goes and what I can talk myself into at 10 o'clock at night and just kind of like shutting that down, shutting that off so that I am in bed at a better time and getting a better night's sleep because all the kind of hats that I wear are better when I prioritize sleep. In the summer, it's much more about like stay awake as long as we kind of want to. And you can sleep in on a lot of days. And there's just a lot less structure. Whereas leaning into structure also means leaning into a better sleep routine and knowing just how my brain works. Here I am not trying to fight against it or shame myself by saying like, why can't you just turn your brain off? Well, I know that that's how my brain functions. And so here's how I'm going to help it. Are there other ways that I can help it? Absolutely. Am I being more active? Yes. Am I getting back into meditating? All those sorts of things? Yes. And a gummy will help when needed. So number 2 is prioritizing sleep because all of these things are better when I get enough sleep. Number 3 is mandatory prospecting power hours. They are something that I definitely fell off on over the summer. And things suffered, but I don't want to put any shame around it. Again, like there's a different energy that I lean into in the summer versus into in the fall. And so I'm not taking a look at how my prospecting power hours went in the summer and being like, you're a terrible business owner. You're the worst. You did horrible because of that. I'm saying that was a season that it needed to be, and I'm okay with that. And I know what season I need this to be. And so, really leaning back into sales and my sales process and prospecting power hours, both for myself and for my clients, and making sure that they're being supported through their prospecting. My business and the businesses around me are supported in my sales process, and just getting back to the core of my business. And so I currently, for my clients, host those every Wednesday from 10 to 11:30 EST on Zoom. If you'd like to join those, we would love to have you. And it's just a space where it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm really going to focus on bringing in new clients, bringing in new leads, letting more people know about my business, what I have to offer, and what services I provide. If you don't sell, you don't have a business. And so that is like a key component and a key building block of my business that, again, suffered feels like a harsh word, but it was just like a block, a piece that I put down during that specific season of the summer. And I'm ready to pick it back up again. And I'm ready to see where my business can go, especially as we're like gearing up towards, I don't want to say it, the holidays, but really getting back into my groove, getting back into the swing of things with my sales process is going to be something that is important to me. And so that is number 3 of the things that I'm leaning into as I'm getting back into my fall routine. Number 4, it is back to school time, even for me. One of the things that I really leaned into this summer was getting lost in story, both for myself, for my daughter. As I was driving places, like typically I listen to podcasts, I listen to business books, I listen to educational pieces, and this summer I listened to a ton of audiobooks. I've read 37 books so far this year. My goal is 45, so I'm definitely going to hit that. But this summer, I listened to a lot of books. If you want to know what my favorite reads from the summer are, let me know. I could definitely do an episode on that, or even just like an Instagram or whatever. But I definitely like leaned into taking in story and creativity and taking in getting lost in other people's worlds. Typically like to consume books that are like kind of like light and airy and don't have a lot of meat to it. Like I read this one book, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. I read that physically, but like when I tell you I got lost in that story, I mean, I sobbed all the way through that book. Like chapter 2 had me like sobbing because I get so invested into it. And so I really leaned into that this summer, both physical books and audiobooks. And so with it being the fall and kind of school back in session, I want to lean back into listening to more educational podcasts, more business podcasts. How can I grow as a business owner? How can I grow as an entrepreneur? How can I hear what other people are doing and really lean into that? There is one podcast, Grow the Show, which helps podcasters grow their show. He has rebranded. I think he rebranded in like the spring or early summer, and I haven't listened to it much since then. But part of that is just because I haven't been listening to podcasts. I haven't been listening to educational business growth tips, growth advice type of shows. And I was consuming multiple podcasts a week in the spring and early summer, all of last year. And I really put that down during the summer, and I'm ready to pick it back up. So if you have any podcast recommendations of things that you're really enjoying in kind of that sphere, let me know. I would love to pick up some new ones. So thing number 4 that I'm leaning back into is learning and growing my business and being in a learning and growth sort of mindset versus the creative and story consuming mindset that I was in all summer. Again, none of these are better or worse. It's just as I'm changing seasons, I want to think about my habits and how they support my goals for the different season that I am in. And my last thing that I am doing or adding to my routine now in my fall season, this is something that I've done. I've gone in different cycles of doing this. And when I do it, I always love it so much. And then I fall off because ADHD or life or whatever. Again, we are not adding any shame to any of this episode. I do enough of that in my brain. I don't need to bring it to the podcast. And so this last one is no social media before 10 a.m. I'm not getting on social media before 10 a.m. And the idea is that I easily get pulled into the scroll hole that is social media, whether recently it is definitely TikTok. For a while it was Threads. For a while it was Instagram. And I kind of bounce back and forth between the platforms, but TikTok does a really, really good job of like hooking you in and keeping you there. So then I like spiral into I get stuck in the scroll hole, and all of a sudden it's like 10 o'clock and I haven't done anything productive. And I'm like, I am the worst. And then I'm like, I have so much to do. And then it gets to be like 3 o'clock and I need to go on to the next part of my day. And I'm like, I didn't get enough done. How could I spend that much time on social media? I'm the worst. Who do I think I am trying to be an entrepreneur when I can't even get myself off of Instagram and TikTok? Meanwhile, it's a $1 billion industry that psychologically knows how to keep us on. And so what can I do to prevent that? And so what I have found is that not getting on social media before 10 a.m. allows me to like prioritize my day, get really good momentum on things that are impactful, on things that are important, and saying, okay, I got through all my email and now I'm in a groove and now I have momentum in things that are productive and things that are effective and things that make me feel good that aren't social media. And then kind of once 10 a.m. hits, you're like, I haven't been on social media today. And it just like, you're in such a good swing that it's not as lucrative. When I keep in that habit, I'm like, okay, I really like this. And my day-to-day feels a lot better. And so I'm going to challenge myself to that again. No social media before 10 a.m. So that is how I plan to lean into fall, the more structured, the more masculine, while also keeping that like cozy feel for myself this fall. So number 1 is living for Sundays. Number 2 is prioritizing sleep. Number 3 is getting back into my prospecting power hours. Number 4 is back into my learning growth mindset. And number 5 is no social media before 10 a.m. I would love to hear if you have anything that you're adding to your fall routine, that you're adding back into what your day-to-day fall energy looks like. I hope this was beneficial. Maybe it had you think about tweaking a couple things or leaning more into or less of a couple things. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this fall brings. So until next time, remember that big dreams and small steps will transform your life.